All right, today we're cracking open a pretty serious case file. But our targets, well, they're not your typical criminals. They're microscopic assassins. We are going to be profiling the superbugs that are literally pushing modern medicine right to the edge. So, let's get this investigation started.
Now, this isn't just some catchy headline. This is a direct warning from the Infectious Diseases Society of America, and it really gets to the heart of our whole investigation. It points to this terrifying imbalance, right? We've got the rise of these incredibly tough bad bugs, and at the same time, a critical shortage of the drugs we need to actually stop them.
I want you to really, truly think about that for a second. What happens? Things like routine surgeries, common infections, even just a little scrape could suddenly become life-threatening again. And look, this isn't science fiction we're talking about. It's the very real future we're facing if we can't get this threat under control.
Okay, so it's time to meet our prime suspects. These two are among the most wanted pathogens on the public health radar, Acinetobacter baumannii and Pseudomonas aeruginosa. Let's take a look at their rap sheets.
So here's the rundown. First up, we've got Acinetobacter baumannii. Its nickname, the gram-negative MRSA, should tell you everything you need to know. It is just as tough as the infamous MRSA superbug. Its whole MO is just pure survival. It can live for days on hospital surfaces, just waiting for a chance to infect. And on the other side, Pseudomonas aeruginosa. Now this one, it's a master of defense. It creates these slimy protective shields called biofilms that make it incredibly difficult for antibiotics to even get to it. And as you can see, both are absolute experts at causing some of the most devastating hospital-acquired infections out there.
So, the big question is, how do they do it? How do these superbugs get away with it and defeat our best drugs time and time again? Well, it's all about the tools they've packed in their survival kit. Let's take a look inside their criminal arsenal.
You know, these bacteria have evolved 3 absolutely brilliant strategies to survive an antibiotic attack. I want you to think of them like this: molecular scissors, reinforced shields, and bouncer pumps. Each one is a totally unique weapon, and each is designed to completely neutralize our medicines. First on the list, the molecular scissors. So these are enzymes called beta-lactamases, and what they do is, when an antibiotic like penicillin or carbapenem, which are some of our real heavy hitters, shows up, these enzymes literally find it and chop it to pieces before it can do any harm. It's an incredible preemptive strike that makes the drug totally useless. Next up, they're reinforced shields. Okay, so a bacterium cell wall has these tiny little doorways called porins that let things like nutrients in. But when they sense danger, they can actually shrink or even completely close these doorways. By changing their porins, they physically block the antibiotic from ever getting inside the cell in the first place. Simple, right? No entry, no effect.
And this might be the most clever tactic of them all, the bouncer pumps. So, let's say an antibiotic molecule does manage to sneak past those shields. These efflux pumps act like tiny bouncers at a club. They identify the intruder, grab it, and forcefully eject it from the cell before it can reach its target. It's a truly amazing internal security system.
Okay, so we've profiled their methods. We know how they operate. Now it's time to look at the evidence from the front lines. This case study is going to show us just how frighteningly successful these tactics have become. Our investigation now takes us to Saudi Arabia. And the reason we're zooming in here is that recent studies from the region give us this incredibly detailed snapshot of the crisis in action. And I want to be clear, what's happening there is really just a reflection of a growing global problem.
The evidence is, well, it's staggering. In one study, 69% of Acinetobacter baumannii samples were found to be multidrug resistant. Think about that. That means they could fight off attacks from 3 or more different classes of antibiotics. Our treatment options are just vanishing.
And now for our other suspect, Pseudomonas aeruginosa. This data is from a very recent 2023 study, and it shows just how badly our weapons are failing. I mean, amikacin holds up okay, but just look at the others. Meropenem, a really powerful drug, is now only effective about half the time. And ciprofloxacin, which is a super widely used antibiotic, now fails in nearly 2/3 of cases. Our arsenal is shrinking, and it's shrinking fast.
This chart right here really puts the whole crisis into stark perspective. On the left, you have meropenem, that powerful go-to antibiotic we just mentioned. And on the right, that's colistin. That is one of our absolute last lines of defense, and it's effective in less than 44% of cases. When your last resort fails more often than it works, you are in very, very serious trouble.
So that brings us to the final and most critical phase of this investigation. What exactly is this last resort drug, colistin? And what in the world does it mean when even it starts to fail?
Colistin is actually an old antibiotic, a relic from the 1940s. For decades, doctors just stopped using it because it can be pretty toxic, especially to the kidneys. But as all our other drugs started failing, we were left with no choice but to bring it back out of sheer desperation. Its use today is a massive red flag that we are running out of options.
And just when you think this story can't get any worse, there's a plot twist. Researchers have now identified what they call a newer, frightening phenomenon called heteroresistance. And believe me, this is a particularly sneaky and dangerous form of resistance.
So what does it mean? Here's the crucial point. Heteroresistance means that within a single infection, there's a hidden subpopulation of bacteria that is already resistant to colistin before we even use the drug. So the colistin goes in, it kills off all the weaker, susceptible bacteria, but it leaves these pre-resistant ones behind to multiply and completely take over the infection. It's like a bacterial sleeper cell just waiting for its moment to strike.
So, where does all of this leave us? The evidence is pretty undeniable. This isn't just some regional issue. It's a global arms race with profound implications for every single one of us. This case is far, far from closed.
This right here, this lays out the dangerous path we're on, the path to what people call a post-antibiotic era. It starts simply. First, bacteria develop resistance to common drugs. Then, we start overusing our last resort options. Next, resistance to even those drugs emerges and spreads, which leads us directly to step 4, where modern medicine is essentially thrown back a century.
And let me be perfectly clear, this isn't some hypothetical future. This is not science fiction. The evidence we've just looked at, the widespread resistance, the failure of our last resort drugs, it proves that we are already well into step 3 of this crisis. It is happening right now.
Which, of course, leaves us with one final, urgent question. We are locked in an evolutionary race against an enemy that adapts at lightning speed. So the real question isn't just if we can find new weapons, but can we innovate and act faster than they can evolve? Because the clock is absolutely ticking.